He's back to pass. Pressure coming. He's going to get hit in the end zone. That's going to be a safety.
It's now time for Gridiron, State of the Union.
Another touchdown, Porter Ridge, and they've gone up. The score is 23-17.
Presented by DMR Reconstruction, North Carolina's leader in quality insurance restoration services, with crews on standby 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. DMR Reconstruction has your restoration needs covered. Give them a call at 704-327-4028.
He's going to hand it off to Byram. Byram on the right-hand side. He's going to be into the end zone. Touchdown, Monroe.
Gridiron State of the Union is your insider's look each week into Union County High School football.
Malcolm fires one off, and it's into the end zone. Touchdown, Piedmont.
Now we head into the DMR Reconstruction Studio and your host, Brian Stevenson.
Tripp takes off running, calls his own number. He's into the end zone. Touchdown, Piedmont. What a play by the quarterback, Cameron Tripp, getting it done on the left-hand side.
That's the sound of one of the biggest wins in Piedmont High School history. It's called by Sideline Mike right here on the Mighty 1190 last Friday night. The Panthers defeated Porter Ridge 36-33. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Week 3 edition of Gridiron State of the Union. I'm your host, Brian Stevenson. Piedmont wasn't the only Union County team to get a win last week. In other news, Weddington defeated Forest Hills 35-20, Monroe 41, Anson 0, Parkwood 40, Union Academy 7, Sun Valley 49, Hoke County 20, Hickory Ridge 28, Cuthbertson 25, Central Academy 30, and Highland Tech nothing. They blanked them. We'll have more on those games and talk about this week's matchup as we do every week in our trip around Union. We start tonight with Derek Skinner and a report on Marvin Ridge.
After a week off, Marvin Ridge hopes to notch their first win of the season when they host to Audrey Kell. The Mavericks fell to West Montgomery 35-31 in Week 1. Quarterback Drew Swoop went 13 for 26, had 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions in the loss. The Mavericks' opponent Friday night, Audrey Kell, comes into the game with a 1-1 mark. The Knights defeated Myers Park last week 23-17. The Sun Valley Spartans finally get a home game on Friday night when they host Rocky River. Last week, the Spartans racked up 49 points on Hope County. Running back Albert Thunderberg had 20 carries for 261 yards and 3 scores on the night. The Spartans' opponent, Rocky River, is coming into the game in need of a win. The Ravens are 0-2 with losses to Richmond Senior and South Neck. The game will be the first home game for new Spartan coach Tad Balcom. Up next, let's go to Kent Ogden.
This week is the traditional battle of the border, Forest Hills and Central Pageland. Last week, the Jackets fell to Weddington 35-20. Quarterback Zacchaeus Rory ran the ball 15 times for 153 yards and a score, but the defense couldn't stop Weddington. The Jackets' opponent tonight is not only looking for their first win of the year, but their first score of the year. The Eagles were shut out in their season opener last week 27-0 at Hartsville. A win for Forest Hills, and they would be above 500. Next up, Central Academy at Union Academy. Last week, Central had a big win 30-0 against Highland Tech. The Cougars had a balanced attack, scoring on the ground 3 times and 4 through the air. The win was a big confidence boost for the team and first-year coach Scott Smith. The Cougars' opponent, Union Academy, has struggled so far and comes into the game at 0-2. But Coach Robert Forshee has urged his men to play hard for 4 quarters. If the Cardinals play mistake-free football, the matchup against Central could be a good one. Now we'll send it to Chris Rogers.
The Monroe Redhawks host the Cuthbertson Cavaliers this Friday night. So far this season, the Redhawks have scored 91 points, and the defense has not allowed a score yet. Coach Johnny Sal appears to have his team firing on all cylinders. Perhaps their toughest test will come this week against Cuthbertson. The Cavaliers lost last week to Hickory Ridge, but they may have their best team yet. Quarterback Austin Kendall has already thrown for over 700 yards and 6 scores this season. This should be a good matchup at Red Hawk Stadium this Friday night. Next up, Porter Ridge hits the road to Providence this week. The Pirates are 0-2 and suffered a stunning defeat to Piedmont at home last week. The team looked to be in control of the game, going up 20-0 in the first half, but they allowed Piedmont to rally back in the closing seconds. The Pirates will need to have a strong defense on Friday night if they are going to get their first win of the season. Providence is 2-0. The Panthers have scored 74 points in their first 2 games and only allowed 23. Now we go to our Wixie Game of the Week. Here's Sideline Mike.
Our WIXC Game of the Week features the Parkwood Rebels hosting the Piedmont Panthers. Piedmont will try to keep the momentum of their big win over Porter Ridge going as they travel to Rough Edge to face Parkwood on Friday night. The Panthers took the lead for the first time of the night with only 38 seconds remaining in the ballgame. Quarterback Cameron Tripp ran in the go-ahead score from 14 yards out. He also ran in the two-point conversion. The Panthers' opponent tonight also had a win last week. The Parkwood Rebels dominated the Union Academy Cardinals 40-7. Quarterback Josh Coble was 5 for 5 passing and accounted for 3 scores. Max Robinson also had a stellar night. He had 3 catches for 102 yards and 3 scores. It should be a good one Friday night in Rough Edge. Tune in for coverage beginning at 7 p.m. Friday night. Now let's go to Game 2 and Reed Alexander.
Game 2 of the WIXC doubleheader features the Weddington Warriors and the Wonders of A.L. Brown. Weddington looks to improve to 3-0 on the season. Last week, the Warriors beat the Forest Hills Yellow Jackets 35-20. Last season, Weddington only lost 2 games in the regular season. One of those losses was to A.L. Brown. This year, the Wonders come in with a record of 1-1. Tune in for all the action immediately following our live coverage of Piedmont and Parkwood right here on WIXC. Now let's get back to that wonderful studio and Brian Stevenson.
Thanks a lot, Reed. It's time now for our first time out, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, our roundtable with Sideline Mike, and later in the show, the coach of the victorious Piedmont Panthers, Ron Massey. Stay tuned. You're listening to Gridiron State of the Union.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Gridiron State of the Union, brought to you exclusively by DMR Reconstruction. Fire, water, wind, or mold damage, they are your go-to source. And if you're thinking about remodeling, from the tip top of the roof to the bottom of the foundation, they can handle it for you. Windows, doors, paint, floors, vinyl siding, they do it all at DMR Reconstruction. Stop by and visit their showroom on Highway 74 in Marshville, North Carolina. You'll be glad you did. 704-327-4028, 327-4028, and they hope you're enjoying the Gridiron State of the Union, brought to you by DMR Reconstruction.
Welcome back to Gridiron State of the Union. Time now for our roundtable segment, and I'm joined by Sideline Mike. Mike, you certainly had a thriller last Friday night.
Man, I tell you, thriller really, it almost doesn't do it justice, Brian. We had a great ball game out at Porter Ridge High School as the Piedmont Panthers made a visit to the Boneyard. The beginning of the game, a little slow-paced for Piedmont. We were kind of wondering a little before halftime, what the final score would end up being, because it was just a runaway, it seemed. At one point in time, the Panthers were down by 20 points, 20-0, and then they end up coming back and winning it the last 30 seconds of the ball game. What a win for the Panthers.
Absolutely, and talk about the momentum maybe it gives them, and then Parkwood had a good win against UA last week. Should be a good one down there on Friday night in Rough Edge.
Well, you talk about the momentum. Listen, anytime you can go in and beat a team like Porter Ridge, at Porter Ridge especially, I think it kind of gives your team a little extra oomph, and you really get to have the mindset that you can really play with anybody. And that's exactly, I have a feeling exactly what Coach Massey's telling the Panthers this week in practice. Listen, guys, you beat one of the top teams in the county, and a 4A team at that. So, you definitely have a shot against anybody else that you're going to play all season.
And, of course, Parkwood certainly trying to build off the momentum of last week's win. They might have something to say about that as well.
Well, they may, and the quarterback over there, Josh Coble, had an excellent game Friday night. He led his team to victory, to say the least, a big 40-0 win over Union Academy. And Parkwood, they've got a lot riding on this game as well. They will start conference play in about 2 weeks, and you're fine-tuning at this point. You want to have all cylinders hitting when that time rolls around.
Absolutely. Well, we know that everyone will get to listen to that game right here on the Mighty 1190, and that is Friday night at 7 p.m. And, of course, we appreciate Mike joining us this week for the roundtable. And, of course, we talked about that Piedmont win, and we'll talk to the coach of the Panthers, Ron Massey, right after this on Gridiron State of the Union.
This quick break in the action is brought to you by DMR Reconstruction, the exclusive sponsor of the Gridiron State of the Union. One of these days, you're going to want to do home improvement. New windows, new doors. Maybe you got hardwood floors you want to refinish, or you need new carpet or flooring. DMR Reconstruction is your go-to source. They also specialize in fire, water, wind, and mold damage restoration. They'll even help you deal with the insurance companies. Visit the showroom in Marshville, North Carolina, or give them a call at 704-327-4028, 24/7 for emergencies, 327-4028. Let them know you heard about them here on Wixie. And now back to more of the Gridiron State of the Union, brought to you by DMR Reconstruction.
Looking to make home improvements? Visit the big DMR Reconstruction showroom in Marshville and see why they are the best. We now return to Gridiron State of the Union and Brian Stevenson.
Welcome back to Gridiron State of the Union. Time now for our Coach's Corner segment, and I'm joined by Coach Ron Massey. And, Coach, a fantastic win for your program and your team on Friday night.
Oh, appreciate it. It was. They've owned us for the last few years, and hopefully it's an indication of our progress with our program, and I would like to think so. They played very well and played well enough to win. We were just fortunate to get away with victory in that game.
What was the key turning point there? I was able to listen to the final moments of that. It seemed like a lot of confidence in especially your quarterback taking the team down the field and really not being intimidated there late in the game.
We try to do a lot of situational things at practice, game-type situations, and so when we get in those situations, we're not lost as a football team. So I think hopefully that paid off a little bit. Just the positive attitudes our kids had, going down through it. A lot of times you sit there and you think what bad could happen, but they were very positive and followed through and executed what we've been trying to teach them to do.
I know that it's always a confidence builder to get a win like this, but then there's always that chance of a letdown. Tell me about practice this week and the guys' focus as they prepare for Parkwood.
Well, we talked a lot the previous week about learning a lesson from Hickory Ridge, and hopefully, we won't have to go through that again. We didn't have a very good week of practice. We weren't very focused. We were flat going into the game, and, trying to make high school kids realize you only have 11 opportunities in the regular season to play a football game, and you spend all that time and energy in the off season working and practice working just for those 48 minutes on 11 nights. And it's a shame to waste those because of lack of focus and lack of attention to detail and those things. So hopefully that point got across, and we'll be better at that.
Well, final question here, of course, Parkwood is a solid program. They got a big win against Union Academy on Friday night. I'm sure you've looked at film. Tell me what it's going to take for Piedmont to continue that win streak to 2 games.
Well, last year they rolled in here and had, played us extremely well and did could have beat us. We scored late in the game to win that game. But Coach Cobble's done a great job down there. They've got a sound system. They look like they're very well coached. They put you in binds defensively with the way they attack you defensively and force you into mistakes. Hopefully we'll be prepared for that. But I expect just a very good football game. And you look at what they were able to accomplish last year, getting to the 4th round. So there's 4 extra weeks of preparation for those young kids, preparing for this season. That means a lot.
Thanks a lot to Coach Ron Massey for being our Coach's Corner guest this week. It's now time for our UC Preps UC Top 3. Coming in at number 3, Sun Valley. Number 2, Monroe. And number 1 in the UC Top 3, the Weddington Warriors. The UC Top 3 is part of the UCPreps.com website. Be sure to go to UCPreps.com for the latest on Union County High School football.
Time for Extra Points.
In my Extra Points tonight, there were great storylines last week. The Piedmont win over Porter Ridge was a big deal, not only for the football team, but the entire Unionville community. The Panthers have been on the losing end of that matchup for a long time. The win was a great shot in the arm for the program. Their opponent this Friday night is the Parkwood Rebels, another team that has developed a winning attitude after a great playoff run last season. The Monroe Redhawks are still running on all cylinders. Their defense still hasn't allowed a point this season. And in my final extra point, the Weddington Warriors will show just how strong they can be this year with a win over A.L. Brown on Friday night. And with that, we are all out of time. Special thanks to our sponsor, DMR Reconstruction, and thank you for listening each and every week. We have examined the state of our union, and I can report it is good. Good night, everybody.